Good evening, NJCAAE, powered by Esports U. I'm Binks, and I'm joined here by Corbett, and we have an exciting semifinals matchup coming up going on between Barton and Sumter.
We sure do have an exciting semifinals matchup. Obviously, I'm a bit of a stranger here myself, Binks, so I don't know how much insight I can necessarily lend you to about these two teams, but certainly a semifinal match on the line, a lot to play for from both of them. So expect a strong showing here over the course of possibly, I should say, three maps.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be quite explosive. We already have our map bands done, so we can hop right on over to that. No need to do theory crafting today. We're going to be going over to three explosive maps, Coastline, Villa, and Cafe. And I really want to highlight that these teams banned Clubhouse and then Oregon, so they already have a lot, both of them. They have a big up in my book. If you're banning out Clubhouse and Oregon, believe me, every single caster thanks you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Coastline played first because it's such a frag heavy map, right? We generally consider Coastline to be like the most Call of Duty style map, right, of all the maps in the game. So when you pick that as your starting choice, you're expecting to come out, you're relying on your gun skill to deliver you an early map victory because the planning is just not required there. So a bit of a bold choice to come out, I think, with that as the first map, really, I think probably shows a team that is believing its own hype, right, in terms of their ability to put their opponent down.
Yeah, you have a point there, but we'll hop right on in. So the thing about Coastline is it provides us a really new opportunity to see what bands will come out. And you get interesting bands like Sumter getting rid of that IQ. And then we can also see Barton, they don't really need to get rid of the Thatcher because especially on a map like Coastline, Thatcher isn't all that important. It's a lot more of a guns map. So the IQ could be trying to tackle something from above to below. You don't want electronics getting shot out. Next thing you know, you could also go and look at, for example, the Jackal, which gets rid of any sort of roaming capabilities, and the Valkyrie. And I think we could easily see the Mira, but once again, that seems like a wasted ban.
It's IQ is the one that I think really stands out to me. Valkyrie obviously getting banned, Mirror getting banned. These things should not be surprising, right? For someone who consumes a lot of Siege, they are kind of the deadly duo, right, of the defender side, and they are the highest banned, just statistically, operators in the game when it comes to the defense. The one that is really genuinely quite interesting is IQ getting banned because she's an operator who, if we're going to be incredibly honest with ourselves, Binks, does not have a lot of utility outside of, you know, a very basic information gathering tool, right? The problem with IQ is she can find the things and she can tell her team where they are, which is useful, but her ability to actually remove anything of substantive value is very minimal compared to an Iana with frag grenades, for example.
Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. I would have actually loved to. Oh no,
that's unfortunate.
Oshawott. Not Oshawa. It's not Oshawott. It's I can't remember what it was.
Is that a Dark Souls reference?
No.
Okay, all right. We're on different pop culture planes then for that one.
It's an Oshawott from Pokemon, man. It's one of the starting Pokemon.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Binks. I'm an old man. I bought Pokemon, the first Pokemon game when it came to the United States when I was a kid. And that was when I was in 4th grade, which was a long time ago. I bought Pokemon Yellow because I had Pikachu in it, and I loved the show when I was a kid. And that was the last Pokemon game that I bought until Sword and Shield. I have no idea. That's a black hole.
Oh I
have no idea. Yeah, outside of the original ones, that's a black hole.
That reminds me, when you tweeted about... By the way, if you want to go follow Corbett, because his Twitter's right there, I cannot name someone with funnier tweets. Like, man, I gotta say that now that I have your tweets brighten my day every single time I read them. And your tweet after a broadcast saying, I fully accept that I'm getting old. I finished a broadcast and I want to take a nap.
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you what. My voice hurt. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? Anyway, let's take a quick look. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot to talk about, right, in terms of what's happened because we didn't even get a round played. But you know, I was going to talk. The other ban that I wanted to talk about was something that you had already mentioned, which was the Thatcher not getting banned on Coastline. Now, last night I was watching this map, and Thatcher did get banned. The idea being that Thatcher can actually be kind of annoying depending on what sites you want to play. Specifically, if you're going to play over Sunrise Bar, Pink Bar, that that whole area, a Thatcher actually can be a real nuisance because he can do the little EMP thing and it goes through the floor, and the Pengu spot that everybody likes to hold that's nestled over there in the corner, that just becomes absolutely useless in that circumstance. So it's interesting to me to see that ban, because it implies that neither of these teams are really thinking about playing kind of the most off meta site on Coastline.
Yeah, I'm quite curious. It is a lot. Oh, I don't even have to do crap. Oh my goodness, I was supposed to go into some really big about this actual site. I was gonna actually focus on, well, how much would an IQ actually influence a site like this, where the entirety of it is destructible from down below? But then you really think, most of the time you don't sit in those positions. You're sitting in positions like the top of Cool Vibe Stairs, where the only thing you really need to worry about is just the shots from up above, which is closed off considerably from the coastline rework.
10 seconds remaining.
Indeed it is. And looking now at what USC Sumter has brought to the party, it's a relatively solid, I would say, choice of defensive operators here. The Bandit, I think, is the only one that I would consider a little bit out of pocket, just because they haven't actually used those batteries where I thought they would. If you look kind of on the top left of your screen where that balcony wall is there in VIP, that's where you usually want to put the Bandit batteries in this day and age, because it's such an easy entry point. But they've got them over here, and really anybody who's tried to play off the top deck on like an ace, for example, will tell you that even if you get that hard wall open, it's really not that useful. Like, you don't actually get that good of a sight line over towards pool table. So an interesting choice right there on the defensive side.
Yeah, I would have actually preferred to, if you switch the Bandit out for someone like the Mute, and you put it onto key angles that you want to deny, and of course it's only a dome, but then you go and you look at the wall that goes in towards VIP, you don't actually have to worry about anything, because every single bit of intel there, it's just going to be denied. You can't repel and put something, so that you have to take the ace, which on the side of Barton, they have not taken any of. And a great job droning now. Early round from Barton, they spotted out these Capcan traps. So Kuro, I think we observed this on Tuesday, that there was no influence. Like, the Capcan was oftentimes dying on an early roam that was not supported by his team. And now, especially with Barton droning out and looking for these Capcan traps, it looks like it's not going to be doing much at all.
I mean, this is the kind of eternal issue with a Capcan, right? Because the traps can be very effective, but if the enemy team is doing their due diligence on droning, they just won't be that useful. Something else I'm going to point out right here is this is a misplay by the defenders, that neither of those walls were reinforced right there. You should always try and reinforce those walls on coastline, or something exactly like this happens. That is an amazing sightline out of VIP.
Man.
Oh no, Hell Beetle. I don't think he realized that there was another grenade going to come down the slot, but that's okay. Toaster's taking it upon themselves to try and even the battle up, and then sure enough, Decky is there to put it back the other direction. Now Urfy9 getting in on the action as well will take on Stop Looking At Me, and that turns that into a 2v3 after a sudden flurry of violence right there.
Yeah, really big blunder, and I love your point about opening up those angles towards VIP, as it changes a lot of things. And a second team kill, Salty Archer really stacking on to what Toaster did and say, well, if you're going to take one down, I can take one too. But it won't even matter, as Archer will even be able to finish off their kills. I'm quite curious. I get that it was the fire from the catapult, but that entire push from VIP, and we look, where was their primary entry point? The hatch. Oh, wait, that wall that could have been electrified. I think that's quite weird to think about.
That's exactly what I was saying, right? That's like a dagger kind of pointed right at the heart of a lot of, well, I guess both the top floor sites. And if you don't take adequate precautions to at least slow your opponents down to try and prevent them from getting too easy a control over that VIP room, you will suffer for it ultimately. Now, I did want to bring up Salty Archer playing the Capital, because we don't see a lot of Capital played throughout Siege. He's not got a lot of play at the higher levels. He just doesn't get hardly any play at the lower levels at all, because he's a very specialist operator. And there, somebody's learned their lesson, by the way, because they're setting up the batteries on it this time. They know they're picking up a lesson right there. But Capital is so interesting because he really has very limited utility. It can be super effective, but it is very hard, I think, to discern the right and proper time to apply it. It requires really good coordination and really good game sense from the player who's on that operator to get the most value out of a Capital.
So this is quite interesting. We saw 2 last-minute switches on the side of Barton. We saw Joe switching off the Sledge, going over towards the Hibana, as well as Toaster switching off of, I can't remember who, onto the Ace, but no, it was not the Nomad. I'm not too sure who Toaster switched from, but regardless, refocusing on this round, they're switching up the way they're going for the push, all from the electricity they had to deal with. Decky on the aggressive roam won't be able to net any damage favoring their team. They'll have to force their own rotate back towards VIP, which is a lot more favorable for defenders to hold. But the moment you have all these holes, that is a plethora of angles that are just so concerning to watch. Another interesting change inside on the side of operator picks is Kuro going to the Legion rather than the Cat. This is a good pick because it forces them to stay alive the longer in the round. If you die early, you don't deploy any really substantial utility, especially considering that Legion mines have been heavily nerfed within recent seasons. That just does not allow it to have as much of an influence.
This is a good little illustration, by the way, of the sort of Swiss Army knife, I should say, that you have in the hands of a Capital. That was a really good play there. Use the hard breach charge to get the wall open. And then you see that Legion mine coming out. Remember, we were talking about Legion. It's a very valid point. He has experienced some nerfs to the point where those goo mines are not so much about slowing down the enemy team as they are about providing really accurate intel, right? Because if you hear the goo go off, you can be relatively certain that there's somebody around the corner and they're going to have to deal with that. Love what Salty Archer is doing here, by the way, just applying pressure, one hard breach after another. It's going to get that beautiful sight line open again all the way over towards the pool table, and that gives him a cutoff between the 2 sites here, Vinks. So if anybody comes across that line, that's a good night for you.
Yeah, it's a really powerful angle, and I also want to highlight that on the side of Sumter, we've already seen a single smoke canister detonated, and there's a thought of a second one from Beetle as they were getting ready to throw it if that air jab didn't hit them, and there's the second detonation. With only a minute to go in the round, this is putting Sumter in a really, really poor position. Just going to force them to not have that denial possibilities, and Joe just spraying through the barricade will connect onto 2 heads. That's already shocking the round as there's still 5 players, as there's been no team kills. The only players with kills on the side of Sumter are Decky as well as Yashawat. Regardless, Kuros is going to add to that as they want to make sure that their name is known. With 30 seconds to go, chaos has begun to erupt on the second floor.
And again, Kuro here doing lots of work trying to hold it down on the outside edge, but it's Salty Archer again, the one who is making those decisive plays there with those secondary hard breach charges, who did, I think, the majority of the work at the end. It's interesting, actually, how well Kuro played that. I know that we didn't, see a particularly spectacular clutch or anything, but the minute that the defender got cleared out of the hookah area, Kuro was there almost immediately, stepping in through the, rotate had been opened up and getting into a position where they could challenge that entrance with another operator. Really important for holding that down. Unfortunately, it was one good read among a number of poor reads on the side of USC Sumter right there, and it didn't really avail them at the end. Interesting now in the lineup, Kuro, who's again showing themselves to be a bit of a jack of all trades here, swapped over to the newest operator introduced to Rainbow Six Siege, which I'm going to assume is legal over here, and it's a zombie making an appearance. I just want to check. It's a big deal.
Well, that's actually interesting. They're opening up a pixel peak. So one of the interesting things you can do with the new operator of a zombie is that as soon as you throw one of your knives on a barricade, if you throw it in the right spot, you have a tiny little pixel at the corner that you'll then be able to peek right on out of. So really interesting. That's what they're going for. I'm a huge fan of a zombie, and I think that especially as she evolves, it's going to be the same instance that we've seen with Mira. And this is actually a really popular angle to peek, normally on the attacking side. So they're going to hope to get someone off guard. No. Normally it does favor the attackers, in my opinion, but when you have someone just spraying it, that is a great way to get rid of it. But you've got to make sure your knife detonates the wrong way, and that's why I say Kuro on the Azami, it's going to be a little bit of time. It's going to be a learning curve before Azami gets to the level that Mira is, and it will most likely be a must ban.
Yeah, she's an operator that has a lot of game-changing potential right there if you use her properly. Obviously, her gadget's a little bit easier to get rid of, I think, than the one we see from Mira, but definitely approaching must-ban territory as she begins to get mastered more. Love that peek, by the way, that you were talking about. That's my favorite. Whenever I play Coastline, I'm always the guy who goes and checks that, because you got to be sure, that there's the number of kills that I've gotten off of that. And Joe Burrow can add one as well, because somebody tried very hard to make that work. Poor for Kuro. Yeah, you don't repeat it. It's right. Now, fair enough. We've traded right back the other direction. Salty getting taken out. A bit of a loss there, actually, to lose the buck early on in the round, because it's a major part of your soft destruction. You don't have a sledge. So when you do take vertical control here, your ability to actually apply pressure through the vertical is going to be limited to essentially the flat pack charges you have. Fortunately, over on the side of Barton, they have more than enough flat pack charges to go round, 9 in total, which is perhaps the most I think I've ever seen a team bring. And then Decky's just getting kills for free. Why are you not checking this? Decky walking into the master bedroom here, picking up 2 easy kills, easy as you please. And that just leaves, I believe, Jester right there and Joe Burrow on the board for the attackers.
Decky's become quite notorious here at NJCAA for those late round flanks, or even at this point, it was not that late, but they get over aggressive sometimes, and that's what Joe Burrow is going to capitalize on, keeping the round alive. I like how you mentioned the 9 breaching charges that were available, still 2 of them on the board, and you also have Ash with that breaching round, so if he also had those 2 impacts, so a lot of explosive soft breach potential. So Salty getting taken out first meant that they do have to deploy a lot more of it. But as we approach the dying seconds of the round, I am not too sure what Barton hopes to pull out, as we're already seeing a little bit of a stalemate, as these players aren't able to punch out this bandit. He's just situated themselves just right at the back. So Ash using that final breaching charge is going to allow them to work their way towards Sunrise. But if they don't think to clear it out, they are going to be putting themselves in a very unfavorable position. They'll find their frag, however. There's Jester, and they're going to have to push in through this Toxic Babe. Finally, it's going to be detonated. There's another kill. It's a triple for Joe Burrow, even getting the plant. But all the Yoshiwat has to do is shut it down, but Jester is there, and a huge cleanup. And that's a 2v4, possibly, on the side of Joe Burrow and Yoshiwat. Or not Yoshiwat. I can't read names.
It's a huge win. I mean, it was really well executed right there from Barton at the tail end. We'll be honest with you, I was getting a little bit worried as that was ticking along. I was beginning to think, okay, like why are we not making this happen? Why are we not making this happen? Because when you get into the 4v2 situation like that, cautious play, it sounds counterintuitive, but the cautious play is not what's going to deliver you out of that situation, right? What's going to deliver you out of that situation is exactly what we saw. You have to get aggressive. You have to win gunfights. Unfortunately, Barton eventually, when the time forced them into it, was able to get into a position where they could win those gunfights and make things happen. So a great little bit of play right there from the 2 of them, as we see Kuro on a drone hunt. Don't worry, he's got backup from the ultimate drone hunter right there. Decky in tow as well. Been a bit of a rough defensive series here so far for USC Sumter. They have not had a lot of success, all things considered, Binks. But again, it is worth pointing out, Coastline is a map that usually trends towards the attackers.
Yeah, they have a lot of ability to open up the map, and especially on the side of Barton, we've seen a lot of versatility with their picks. Now, I do like the switch to the Ayana. I think it was Urfi who was on the Zofia in the previous round, so now you get those nades back, which was actually lacking in the current meta that we see in Rainbow Six Siege. There's been a huge emphasis on those nades and just burning ADSs, because a lot of players like to feel comfortable in the site, and we're at a point in the game where nades just feel so comfortable. We know where we're throwing them. We know how to position them, how to get them to ricochet off walls, the timing. It's just something that should be commonly known amongst these players. So good to see that Urfi is taking advantage of that, but they still have 2 sets of stuns to be able to burn any ADS you could possibly think of.
Yeah, it's very grenade oriented, right? With this setup, they actually could have probably done themselves a favor and brought even more grenade ops, but there's a trade. Salty Archer and Hellbeetle kill each other. You don't see that every day. The SMG-11 equal to the task of the assault rifle, I guess, and didn't quite keep either of them alive in that scenario. Joe Burrow now setting up a good flank drone right there, keeps them an eye down security as they slowly build up their attack. Interesting entry on the office side here, Binks, because not a lot of emphasis has been put on the vertical control. That also means that at least one operator, and I have a feeling it's Kuro lurking up there on the top of our screens like a sneaky little snake, is probably unaccounted for at this point in time, unless one of the members of Barton does something to kind of give him a little bit of flank control. That job probably on Toaster out of all of these ops.
Yeah, it's a rather interesting predicament, Corbeck, and I'm quite interested because we're already approaching the final minute of the round, and it doesn't seem like they've taken too much control of the second floor, something that we saw them dedicate so much time and utility to you in previous rounds, and this is definitely making Barton start wondering what's going on. Joshua will break the silence though, taking out I'm Toaster. Gridlock is not an operator you want to lose, as there oftentimes when covering the plant, and I don't think they're able to get down as many of those track stingers as they were hoping. But at any point in the round, especially once we get towards that minute, we have to play a game that I like to call Where's Decky? Because they are often on that flank. It doesn't seem like they are going for it. It's going to be Stop Looking at Me, who I believe is in service or kitchen, that is also going to be taken out quite promptly. Kuro is going to be taking the role of the length flank from Decky, as they'll be able to find their kill. But sight has almost become completely compromised, as the remaining 2 flank operators are still off site.
They don't have control of the diffuser. You've got 30 seconds left on the clock, and nobody's got control of the diffuser. Meanwhile, Decky up here on a tall angle, looking down across the courtyard, has perfect eyes on it, and so does Kuro. The other defender has set up a brutal little crossfire here for that diffuser. Somebody's going to have to go try and pick it up. It looks like Urfi will be the sacrifice of choice right here. Decky lets loose, doesn't seem to do much with it. Instead, takes some damage themselves, and that's going to set up for the plant here. Now, one of them has to come into this and do something. Decky has actually positioned themselves a little too far away, and Kuro's just getting eaten up by the track stingers. How did they let this plant go off? Barton CC can't even believe their luck. Good effort by Decky right there to get Urfi down, and now things are going to get quite serious. The MP5 here in the hands of Decky, looking across the board for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow just waiting outside Decky with a beautiful headshot, and that'll be all that the Mute needs to get the defuse down. And Fort Sumter, they will manage to salvage themselves around.
Definitely a little bit too close for comfort, in my personal opinion. I was really worried at that point when I saw that the cross angle was not being sufficiently held, where the Ayano was able to just run right by with that defuse. Capcan, I understand they weren't trying to make noise, but every single time that you step on those tracks, you make a lot of noise. You can hear it stabbing into you, and with every step, I believe that is 10 damage. And as Korbeck, you mentioned quite wonderfully, Capcan's health was being eaten away. That's something you have to disperse of. Even if you're shooting and making a lot of noise, it doesn't matter if they know where you are. In a cross angle, it's better that they're looking directly at one of you, because then the other person has more than enough time. It's about trusting your teammates, and if you don't have enough of an angle, then that's where one of you has to overextend, but make sure the other one is accounting for it by either distracting or making their presence so much more known, or making it so they are the presence that have to be dealt with first.
You know, I'll be honest that it was a little bit of an over-reliance there on Decky on that courtyard angle. It was a very good angle, do not get me wrong. Very good positioning. But at the end of the day, it's not the easiest position to hold, right? And if the attacker is aware of where you are, which they clearly were, it's one that can be challenged. And that's exactly what happened with Urfi. I think what was going on with Kuro is just, I don't think people are super used to having to play against a Gridlock. She doesn't get a lot of play. She's not a very popular operator because she's so slow. But when it comes to flank denial, she can be absolutely brutal. And I think you saw a perfect illustration of that on that last round. But Sumter's got another chance to go at it again here. They're back up to Penthouse Theater this time, still putting down some defensive tools this late into the round, which is a little bit worrisome. But I do appreciate that Decky is now on Oryx. That's going to add a little bit of a different dimension to the game. And again, they're going to put Barton CC's kind of a roam clear to the test here as the first Thatcher EMP comes in, and that should mean that this VIP wall goes down relatively easily.
Yeah, as the first Selma breaching charges detonate, you see Decky, who switched over to the Oryx, great flank operator, is going to be in position, and right as the bandit battery kicks back on, that first Selma breaching charge will detonate. Oh, they were able to shoot it out. Good for them. Well, that works a lot better, or there could have been a second Thatcher grenade detonated. But Salty, changing things up. They will not be the opening pick. Instead, now that they switched over to that Thatcher, they're going to find Joshua. That's the Jaeger who's already taken out. And Kuro's going to be team killing that Oryx. I don't know what's happened with this round, but as soon as we've gone to Penthouse, things have just fallen apart for Sumters. They're already looking down the barrel of a 2v5, which brings them to at least a 4-2 split. Kuro, you can see the player outside.
Yeah,
what are you doing, Kuro? Oh.
I was trying to check if my own eyes were deceiving me right there, Vic. So I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's a gun, man. Just shoot at it and see what happens. But wow, a brutal end to the round.
What?
Yeah, look at that.
Through the wall, he got both of them.
That's crazy. That's just unfortunate. I think one of the things that's worth pointing out right there is we both mentioned it, right? That Oryx is a great flank operator, right? He's an operator that is truly designed to work the map. He's designed to, have verticality that other operators lack, the ability to create his own rotates should he choose to do so. And for whatever reason, Decky ended up stacked up kind of in an inescapable position watching the main breach, and that's just not the spot where Oryx should really be fighting it out. That's not where you want him at. So a bit of a misplay right there, but other than that, I mean, Barton, I think just, being really decisive here, taking their gunfights exactly when they need to, putting on a really good amount of aggression, and also layering their utility very effectively, right? It was a good open, good use of the Thatcher to make sure that it was easy. And it just left Sumter kind of on their back foot.
10 seconds left.
One thing I really want to see from Sumter this round is, with this being a Billards as well as Hookah defense, they need to make their stance known. I like that they've tried to defend VIP, but they have to accept that, okay, we're going to make a stand here. One player can play their life, but in almost every single scenario, they should be backing right off. They should be in a position where they can rotate out, go play a long angle from henhouse, but you're at this point where you know how the attackers are going for their push. You have to play into that and consider how it's going to affect you and how you're going to be able to swing around. And it's very interesting that Barton has constantly switched it up, but you still see those core foundations that comes from droning, taking your time and hunting down these roamers. And speaking of hunting down roamers, we can see a very awkward interaction as we have the roamer of "stop looking at me. You want to keep hiding, my friend, but that's not going to entirely work." Spatial awareness is quite pivotal. When you don't really know exactly what's going on, they'll swing it around right into the unwelcoming arms of Jester on the Finka. They'll win it out. But meanwhile, we even saw a second pick as Yashawat also bit the dust. So that means "stop looking at me" was not even the opening pick. And now 2 minutes, 3v5 favoring Barton.
Yeah, it's a bit of a not situation when you lose two defenders within the first minute of the round. And I mean, those are some kind of difficult kills to stomach. "Stop looking at me" was, should have been "stop looking at my phone" in that particular circumstance. I think he was watching the cam. Jester there getting a really good kill. They're basically using frag grenades now to burn out ADSs, which shows a level of confidence, I think, that is almost undeniable. Jester here with the health boost on the Finka, just trying to get him up the cool vibe staircase. They are being interdicted here, though. They're not getting this all their own way. Decky's putting fire down line, but there goes Kuro, and now Decky, the only one left there, whips out the revolver to try and make it stick. And unfortunately, well, the 6 shots in that revolver are not going to do very much against the combined firepower of assault rifles and LMGs.
That will be a 5-1 split favoring Barton. Their only round that they lost was on the kitchen defense of Sumter that came down to the 1v1 and the case fumble on Barton. So it's just going to be a matter of Sumter on the second half. If they want to take this back, we need to see an immense level of firepower or concentration on working off the mistakes that we've seen from Barton. Now, Sumter has proven in the past that they have had a little bit more trouble from the games that I've seen on their attacking end. Barton does seem to be quite comfortable in this defense. The setup is there, and I think we're going to get a really good understanding of how Barton plans to defend Hookah and Billards just off the way they are placing their reinforcements. They only have 2 left, and I already see 2 worrisome walls, and it's the same walls that we talked about on our very, very first round, where we see VIP walls are either the external VIP walls are either going to be left unreinforced, or it's actually going to be the VIP leading towards Billards walls that are going to be left. So 2 very critical angles, and 1 reinforcement's already being placed, and it's going to be on the external wall. So we're going to see a big influence from Barton of just making sure they don't lose VIP. Otherwise, they're going to be in a very, very hard situation.
Unfortunately, this is one of the kind of issues that is developed with the way that this map has been changed, though, is you do sort of have to start making pick and choose choices. Reinforcing those external walls is important. Reinforcing the internal walls is really important as well. But some teams will kind of 50-50 that, right? You say, well, okay, we'll try and hold them on that outside wall. And then if they do manage to take the outside wall, well, they're already going to take control of VIP, so it doesn't really matter. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that strategic calculus that some teams do like to make, and I'm not sure if that's necessarily even what's in play here, but I think it's worth mentioning it. What I think is also worth mentioning at this point in time, Binks, is reminder of who chose this map and what we were saying at the beginning about why you choose a map like Coastline. BCC were the ones who chose this. And I did mention at the very beginning that the reason you choose a map like Coastline is because you're very confident in your gunning ability, right? You know that you are going to get a lot of kills, and you think you can do that far better than your opponents. And I think if we just look at the respective score lines here on the right side and left side of your screen, I think that's been borne out pretty well by Barton right now, and it was a good map choice of them to go to this place first.
Yeah, farther within that, we've also seen a great use of their utility on the attacking side. So it's gunmanship in combination. And I think that summarizes Siege to a T, saying, well, when you look at Siege, yeah, it's a first-person shooter, but it's gunfights and utility, where you can look at other games like Call of Duty, say, oh, well, I used a flashbang. Oh, I used my EMP. But it's never to the same degree where you're trying to level out or make a certain influence and just have a clear idea or a clear influence of where your utility is going, clear a certain room. It's just not something you see as much within that Call of Duty first-person style of shooter. But as I go with all my crazy analysis, plant is going down from Don't Look at Me, and I think that's exactly what they want to have happen right now. But it won't come to fruition, as I'm a Toaster will deny that plant. Diffuser down in sight. Down is also Beetle. There's the Finka charge, which will be able to pick them right back up quite promptly, and with 44 seconds to go, their second time is the charm in this case. Toaster to find their second kill, and it's gone right back down to that 3v3 stance as the Doc Stims of Joe Burrow are helping keeping his team alive.
They had a moment there where they could have taken it, but it was denied to them at the very last second by the defenders. And now the real gun skill of Barton back on display. Urfi getting the kill onto Kuro right there, playing out of the back of the cocktail area, just not really being shifted from this spot at all. And a lot of pressure being put on the back of Yoshawat and Deki to try and make something out of this. Yoshawat doesn't have any frag grenades left either as Joe Burrow secures the kill into Deki. It's all down in the hands of the Sledge. Sledge tries to swing the door. He looks the wrong direction, and Yoshawat is cleaned up right there. I believe it was Joe Burrow securing the final kill, and that will put Barton onto map point.
Map point. And I'm sorry, I don't see this going Sumter's way. It's just through the decisive action of Barton. They've done a phenomenal job of monopolizing certain aspects of the site. And even when we see an explosive attempt from Sumter where they were able to take the site to some degree, it's not able to be held because unlike the map that we'll see next, which is Villa, Coastline is not privy to having buffer rooms. And when I say a buffer room, it means you have to clear a certain part of the map before you get into the site. So for example, here you can jump right on into the kitchen bomb site. If we go and we look at the kitchen bomb site on Villa, you have to jump into a window or go into a door. And then after you exit a second room, that's when you get into the site. And that's true for every single site on Villa. And that was actually the entire design intention in that case. So when we actually take that into consideration, Sumter's getting in. But no matter how much you get in, it doesn't matter because you're not clearing enough of the map. There's not enough solidified control. You might as well be playing a deathmatch because everyone else is still able to run in and still contest you.
Very true. And you know, I think that this site, I don't have any evidence in the book right now, right, that says that this isn't going to be a Barton victory. And you know, it's unfortunate for Sumter. Again, this was kind of out of their control. I don't think that they would have necessarily chosen to go to Coastline. I think this was a map that they probably didn't want to play, but here they are playing it anyway, and they just don't have the adaptability to really pull this one off today, and that's the way it is. Taking a look now at the attacking lineup, it's pretty standard stuff here. Not a big focus on vertical control. The president of Yoshawat's on the Ying does indicate things maybe are going to be try and be a little bit more straightforward about how they want to do this. We already saw Sumter try a rush, Vinks. It didn't go very well, but they gave it the good old college try, and I think that might be what they're going to try and angle for here again, but we'll see how effective they can be. That's not a bad... Oh, no, I thought it was going to go over the fridge. It didn't. It bounced on the other side. It would have been a good frag grenade if it had managed to go the other way. That's a very common spot for people to hold up right there on the other side of that cabinet fridge thingamajigger.
No, but that's actually interesting because that first nade didn't trigger the ADS. It just fell right down to the ground, which means that any second nade that gets thrown is going to be caught right there by Jaeger's ADS. So really interesting stuff, but Joe Burrow won't be staying too quiet this early on in the round. They came alive with 2 huge kills at the end while they were on the dock, but now 12 and 13. Man, oh man, how did we not notice that already? But regardless, they have come alive. They got the opening pick. Goodbye to the Thatcher Beetle. That's quite huge because you're not able to deny things from outside. You're going to be forcing these nades inside. There's a nade, not cooked in all the way. I don't know if it was caught, but we still heard the explosion, which means that once again, there was no ADS to catch it. Ying Candela being thrown in. Not going to get caught by the ADS, and here comes the blinds. There's the second one, so they just waited a little bit too long. But with all these Candelas being thrown out, the retinas of the players of Barton are going to be burnt out. They have to rotate right on out. But what happened? No control has been established from Sumter. This allows Barton to go right back into their site, rent-free, and they don't have any control. What was gained from that, Joshua? Because I don't see any benefit. I don't see it changing around from you throwing it in to not throwing it in.
Oh, yeah, Yoshua used flash right there, and unfortunately it was not very effective in that particular
There's your Pokemon
scenario.
reference. You do play.
Oh yeah, I walked it in. I walked it in. Stop looking at me getting brought down right there. And you're totally right, by the way. Joshua did manage to secure the kill on Toaster right there, but the follow-up on the backside of those Candelas was absolutely abysmal. It was a waste of a very valuable utility, all things considered. Salty Archer there with the SMG-11 winning it back. Jester getting one in as well. Stop looking at me was already DBNO. He's officially D'd now. He's completely gone. Urfy there checks the corner. This is a nasty angle to play, denying any entrance to service, and unless a miracle happens in the next 6 seconds, Sumter will lose this map. There's a couple more peaks, just suppressing fire on the door. Decky goes down, killed on a run out, and that is the end of that. A very convincing coastline win there from Barton.
Wow, I'm quite baffled and taken away from how convincing that was. Can we address really quickly the fact that we saw, I believe it was on the side of Sumter, they had 3 Finka boosts at the end of the round. What were you waiting for? Use your utility, please. Like, there's wasting it and throwing it in, and I'd rather see you waste it and throw it in than die with it in your pocket, if I'm being quite frank. You're supposed to use it to assist you, but it's better to use it and it has no effect than to not use it at all. Because at the end of the day, using utility is using utility. It's not there to just sit in your pocket and say, hey, I finished the round of this. Now let me throw it out. No, that's not what we are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is a common issue that a lot of teams have that problem, right? They're not able to get all their util out. They're not able to get everything that they need into position right at the time they need it to be. A classic example, by the way, almost as egregious, was the Ying Candelas, right? That would have been great if you had people in position where they could rush up the hallway outside of kitchen and maybe swing the holes that have been opened up in the wall, take advantage of the fact that players were blinded, whatever it was. Not there, just not in the right position. And it was a general lack of coordination, I think, that sunk that team overall on this map. But I got to give credit where credit is due here, Banks. BCC playing an amazing game of Siege. I mean, really looking just the dominant force, winning their gunfights, making the right calls, a couple of minor errors on the defensive side, but in general, a very strong performance.
Very true. But on that note, NJCAA powered by Esports U will be back in a few. See you later. We just saw a very decisive first map from Barton. They were able to take it 7-1 against Sumter. And we got to acknowledge that was their map pick. And Quebec, you made a very good point on just before the stream ended, that Coastline is a very not attacker-sided, gunfight favored map. It's the closest thing you have to Call of Duty within Rainbow Six Siege, besides the deathmatch game mode. Now, going on to a map like Villa, we're going to see a really big change of pace, and we'll be hopping in just a moment. But how do you see these buffer rooms and the overall switch towards a more utility side map affecting these two teams?
That's a good question. I mean, the problem that we're going to see, right, is that if a team is aggressive on Coastline, they'll be aggressive here as well, right? Villa, because it's such a big map and such a complicated map, it's one of the maps in Siege, I think, with the most rooms. It's a ton of locations, a ton of area that needs to be covered. It is going to force you to play as a roamer, and it is going to force you to play roam control. And the team that looked to have the advantage on both of those fronts over on Coastline, as small as that sample size quite literally is small, as small as it is, it did seem to be Barton who had the advantage there. So we'll see if Sumter can kind of rise to the challenge. Some teams really do benefit from the ability to implement structure, and they get a lot of advantage out of that, Binks, right? And so maybe that's what we're going to see here coming out from Sumter. But the thing that I don't like is that Sumter is the attacking team going into Villa, which is a very defensively oriented map.
Yeah, it's going to be really scary to see if Barton's able to just tear things up. But Sumter, we saw them struggling. We only saw a couple rounds, 1 or 2 rounds actually, of their attacking end. And the problem with them on attack was that they had mindless utility dumps. So within that, it's going to be a matter of when they're clearing a room, are they using utility the way that they're supposed to? Or is it going to be the same instance of dump utility, not get anything out of it? Let's go a different way. And it's not to say that I'm not a fan of late round rotations, but late round rotations have to be justified and you have to have a specific route in mind. You have to have the info to cover that route. Otherwise, it's a constant Hail Mary. And the reason why it's called a Hail Mary, because it's not supposed to work every time.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a little bit of a, I do apologize, we had a little bit of a pixel situation going on here. We're getting mute jammed.
Oh, no.
That's what that is. He set up the jammer. No mute. That's the broadcast booth. Keep that out of there. But no, hopefully we'll be able to resolve that in just a second. But we can still talk about what we're seeing here. Sumter, by the way, showing us a very intriguing lineup. They are coming out of the box with a Montaigne in the pocket, but not much of a rush composition really built around that Montaigne. You still have a Nomad, who is the sort of supreme roam denier meta, and you have an Ace, which is a hard breacher as well. Usually when you see a Montaigne coming into play, you see something maybe like an Ash or a Sledge, a Lion even, right? To help with the pings once you start to enter, to give you a little bit of room to work and more information game to gather, because at the end of the day, Montaigne is an information op, unless you're using him in a very specific style of rush strat. So I'll be interested to see if Yoshawat will switch off of that, or if this is some sort of interesting can strategy that Sumter is going to try and run here on this really difficult to take point of AVG.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm actually really enjoying watching these pixels. I feel like I'm watching one of those old arcade games.
Like Snake.
It is.
Like, or no, Dig Dug or something, because they like digging down and you can see the trail and stuff. There we go. Looks like it's stabilized.
Thank you.
He picked the mute jammer up. He picked it up and ran away. No. Oh no, it's back. It's too soon.
Wait, it was just a Thatcher MP that went off. That's what we saw briefly.
Yeah.
But it's so weird watching these frames. This is actually quite therapeutic. If I'm being completely honest, just watching the pixels move. Hopefully we'll get this sorted. I don't know exactly what's going on, who's playing on what. I know that Joe Burrow is down at the bottom of our screen waiting inside a vault, and it seems like it's a really close to sight as all 5 players on the side of Barton are just huddled around vault, and based on geographical location, the hatch right next to 90 has been broken, and Gerbo is going to drop right down, and hey, we gotta have a full aspect of the round, but we're not going to actually see too much as we're going to cams. But I could read you a bedtime story, Corbeck.
I'm okay. It's just not yet my bedtime, I must admit. As old as I am, it's not yet my bedtime. No, unfortunately, we're going to reset the feed, hopefully get back into 10 o'clock, right? I know. I don't think they swapped off that Montaigne, by the way. I didn't quite see there in the fuzz. And if you ever really want to just annoy yourself, go ahead and stay on the screen after your drone gets jammed by a mute and experience true hell. But I think they still have the Montaigne in this. They do. So
ooh, they do.
Yoshawat here is playing on the Montaigne, but where did they enter? I mean, I see the Twitch drone going out. I see the Nomad getting involved. I see an Ace as well. No accounting, by the way, for Joe Burrow there on the Malusi, who's down underneath. Montaigne here leading the charge with the diffuser as well. Yoshawat pushing the door here of gaming. So this is a really interesting use of the Montaigne, and Decky's playing off the back of it. Already managed to snag themselves a kill with the LMGE, and the Nitro Cell, unfortunately, not effective enough to claim the kill there from Toaster, who's forced to play back behind the bar. Has to watch that sightline. Decky just cleaning up with the LMGE on that line. Unfortunately, Urfi there to shut it down.
Yeah, we also have Joe Burrow, who's been on the flank, who will actually be able to snag their kill onto Don't Look at Me. The Montaigne all alone in sight. They have Case, but where is your support? Sumter, you have left your man all alone in the site. No way for you to support him. Spraying out is going to be Salty, trying to find the head of their counterpart, Nomad. Kuro flashing out as well. We see such a stalemate currently, and Yoshua still somehow just wandering around in sight. We don't know where they rotated to, but their two comrades. Shield will drop. Joe Burrow, no ammo left in their magazine. 8 bullets to be precise. Those 8 bullets won't be enough to snag the kill. Montague's shield gonna drop. Salty to find the kill, and it's just gonna be an absolute cleanup.
Beautiful.
As I believe Joe Burrow might have even been able to kill the Montague. I don't know where the second hit. Oh, he did. I didn't even notice that.
He did.
Wow. Nicely done. I don't know why the Montague tried to push to have their face in front of the Malusi instead of pushing behind, but Barton, regardless, clean it up.
That was about as good of a double play off the back of a Montaigne as you're ever going to see there from Joe Burrow. Really well executed. I mean, like you said, it was given to them just a little bit there by the way that Montaigne chose to play that. Yoshua attempting to get aggressive there. I think they misjudged where that Malusi was. I think they thought the Malusi was rotating back around to get them, but a very strange situation using the Montaigne like that. And they brought the Montaigne back again. And again, I just cannot really agree with this, Banks, because the Montaigne there was the perfect illustration of the same problem that we talked about on Coastline, which is the coordination is not there. Montaigne got in. Decky played great off of it on the LMGE. That was really good. That was exactly what you want. You couldn't ask for better. You normally don't get 2 kills, right, off of a Montaigne distraction. Yeah. But then once Decky died, the whole thing fell apart, and you had Yoshua getting harassed, and the rest of the team wasn't anywhere there to support him. And this is why Montaigne usually comes out in a rush scenario, because you rush in behind the Montaigne so you have support so you can capitalize on the kills. And they didn't really do that there. And it's just a mistake. They're going to try it again here, and I'm not sure that it's going to have any different results.
That is the worrisome factor, especially on a site like Trophy. We don't see too much of or zero ideas of going for any push down below. But when you are pushing in towards bedroom, you can throw that Montaigne in, but it doesn't change that they most likely won't be able to get as much control as they're hoping for. Great use of this Twitch drone, though. Little known fact, well, I say little, but it is quite commonly known that if you do shoot a bulletproof cam from the side, you are able to completely disable it. Now, a while ago, those bulletproof cams, you used to just melee them, but of course, now they've changed it, so you can only shoot it from the sides, and if you melee it, just a broken glass mechanic. I also don't know if we have any game sound. Hopefully, you guys have game sound on your end, but regardless, the entire assault from Sumter is going to be primarily based around clearing this red hull. The reason why Red Hall is so very important is because of how much control it creates. Joe Burrow, who notoriously went for the flank in previous rounds, is going to be in the bottom of red stairs. They have 2 options: go towards main stairs or just take the flank head on. It's all going to be based on the cross angle that Barton wants to set up, and we've seen time and time again that they are very comfortable setting up with the coordination they have.
Salty can honestly stall this with one move. If they just throw one of their shurikens up onto the wall and just create a wall over that door, Montaigne can't do anything. He's just going to stare at it and look annoyed and have to rotate the complete other direction around. And that might be how it actually ends up playing out right there. Otherwise, Yoshua is just kind of threatening. But again, Montaigne is an operator who cannot exist in a vacuum. He does not function as a solo op, which is almost kind of how he's being used right here. This is good intel that he's probably delivering as he pushes into the site. But, you know, the intel's not enough. And look, Salty separated him. He waited to throw, I think, the shuriken until they got the Montaigne in. Good kill right there from Yoshua, mostly at the benefit of the opponent. Just kind of ran towards him in a desperate attempt to shut him down, but now he's isolated in that room with the smoke, and that's not a particularly great place to be if you're on Montaigne. And then a team kill coming in here as well from Decky. That's unfortunate. Montaigne killed by his own side. How many times have you seen that?
Way too many. It's Montaigne can only cover the way he's looking. You shouldn't really have to worry about looking towards your teammates. That's not really where the fire is supposed to come from, but it came from the spray of Decky on that LMGE. So of course you have that added aspect of a possible friendly casualty. Regardless, blinds being thrown in, and I really need to see that Kuro pushes in directly off those blinds, which they will do successfully. But look at these 2 huge kills erupting on the side. Sumter is going to leave it all left up to Joe Burrow. They're 4-0. They don't want to have a death on their plate. But Kuro, 1-1. They're going to attempt the plant on 0-0. All Joe Burrow does has to run up. And why would you get off the plant? What do you have to lose? Your KD doesn't matter. It is playoffs.
I mean, it was a damned if you do, damned if you didn't, right, sort of situation right there. There's no other word for it at the end of the day, Biggs. It had taken too long, and again, it's a matter of execution. It was not the worst idea in the world. As much as I've been slagging off the Montaigne, it wasn't the worst idea in the world to have the Montaigne push in like that. But the support just wasn't there, and they were fortunate that Yoshawat was talented enough to pull a kill out of that situation, because that could have very easily been just one dead Montaigne. Instead, they managed to turn it into something more. But that's not going to kind of, I think, ultimately sort of deliver them from the situation that they were in right there. And unfortunately, it looks like our feed glitch is back in fine fashion as we try and read the colors here. They are down in kitchen. I can confirm that much for you here from the ground view. They are in kitchen, and we'll see hopefully if we get this sorted out. They are going to the tertiary bomb site, and unfortunately, this is a good rotation for Barton. They look like they're about to complete their full 3-site rotation, and Sumter's still kind of looking for answers here.
It seems like they haven't been able to make too much of a dent on the round, but if we really go and diagnose the previous one, they got it down to the 1v1. It was a great cross angle established from both the Nomad of Kuro and Stop Looking At Me, pushing in from the window there, the 2 lonesome players remaining. The cross angle was established, they got control of sight, but they had to commit sooner. They waited way too long, and that just fed right into Barton's ideas in the exact same way that they wanted to push towards or defend their own site. So as we see this kitchen defense, I need to see vertical play. We have to see that Barton is not allowed to sit comfortably. They can't be allowed to rotate around key positions in sight. It needs to be monopolized by Sumter. When you take something, you don't need to really take it as, well, oh, I don't want to annoy them by taking this room. You take that room with an iron grip and say, this is mine. You're not getting it back. Then you go and you look at the next one. Quite like the policy of appeasement, but...
You just got to take the vertical, really. I mean, those are the rooms you should be reaching out and grasping, right, as these top floors. And it looks like they're going to get that mostly for free. There's not a lot of the side of Barton here that's really meant to contest it. Joe Burrow obviously would be the sort of man in motion for that and is nowhere near it. But look at the delay coming out of Sumter to finally get in. It's taken them a whole minute to enter into this top floor control. Now, Sumter does not have a sledge. Again, they're missing it. So they're relying on flat pack charges one more time. They only have 3 of them to get that floor open. And I guess they could use the Zofia, impacts if they really wanted to, but it seems almost like a wasted effort at that point in time. Good openings, though. I mean, they're going to get some sight lines here that maybe they can play off of, but this is the way that you want to do this. Kuro, by the way, getting the kill into Joe Burrow right there, and that's a good way to start. That'll take the Vigil off the board. And now with about 1 minute and 20 seconds left, Sumter in a good position to execute on the final bomb site. They just need to make it happen in time.
Yeah, lovely rhyme right there. You should be a poet, Corbeck, but with 1 minute and 7 seconds to go, Salty Archer is going to capitalize on Yoshua spraying into an angle that should not be contested. And look at this, Laundry is being retaken by the defenders. That's not how the attacking round is supposed to work. You're not supposed to let them push you back outside of the map. They are not even inside yet, and they are just being completely shut down. The Finka boost will dissipate, and all the 3 remaining players are all at 100 health, but they're split up. Beetle, as well as Stop Looking At Me, are pushing down Astro stairs. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Diffuser will be recovered by Decky. Salty Archer was also the one to fall, leaving a big route for rotation. This is really interesting because you have the rotation possible by Jester, and it's going to be a complete frag fest to finish things off, as Urfi will be able to find Decky. No diffuser for the players of Sumter. They're going to have to run in, try to get their kills, but you run in, covered by your own teammate Smoke. That means it's going to favor the defenders even more. Spraying out that F2 should definitely beat the UMP, especially in a good day, but they're going to run out of ammo, switch over to that pistol, and Urfi with that carbine full of ammunition will capitalize on it, and there's the perfect cycle for the defenders.
Can I just add, by the way, I love that little sort of like rat hole extension that was done with the castle right there, where they opened up the entrance to basement and then kind of had the feet peak basically on that door with the rotate leading back into China. That's beautiful. I like that a lot. I don't know if I'm going to see that in NAL, for example, but I might use that in an unranked game because I like that a lot.
Unranked
unfortunately,
game? You think there's going to be enough coordination in an unranked ranked game, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to set up this castle. And I can't wait to do this.
You don't need coordination for that. If you're the castle, you just put it there, and that's where you stay for the rest of the round. And you hope that
you're going to get reinforced out of sight, my friend. You are getting.
No, I'm not going to get reinforced out of sight. We'll see. I'm gonna try it. I'll try it tonight if I get Villa. But anyway, I digress.
I'll see you know,
it's a difficult round there for Sumter again, because they just didn't have the right tools. The verticality was controlled very easily, but their lack of a sledge there absolutely hamstrung them. Because if they had had a sledge, they could have opened up so much of the floor on the vertical. They could have brought frag grenades into play, right? They could have done some serious damage. Just not there. Not there for them, and as a result, they kind of got into a bit of a half-hearted push. I mean, they even had the advantage of the opening kill. It was a good kill too. You took down the top frag on the enemy team, and they were just never able to capitalize. And you'll get the second one, Urfi. Sometimes those magnets can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, they just really stick. Like there's a polarizing attraction to them. Just a little magnet pun that did not land.
It's weird how magnets work.
Yeah. At least it landed a little bit. I'll take a pity joke, or sorry, a pity laugh any time of day. That always works for me. But regardless, 2 minutes 35, early push from Sumter, and they seem to be really clinging to the fact that you can clear from the other side of the building. That's what we saw in the first round, second round. Third round was a little bit of a weird one with how they chose to push. It was split, some went up, some went down, but it didn't seem like there was an overarching clear narrative. It seemed to jump all over the place. Kind of like me whenever I try to discuss history with someone, you're going to jump through a whole bunch of different timelines, which is not necessarily what you want to see on attacking end. You want to see a clear, cohesive timeline where, well, we wanted to push into astronomy. So what did we do? Well, we got on the window to stop any rotates out to make them feel more pressure and maybe get them to rotate early. Oh, well, there's someone still waiting there. How did we clear them out? Oh, well, we deployed more utility. So you can say the same thing for 90. Well, how do you clear 90? We got on the window. Well, how'd you deal with the player that was still sticking there? Well, we deployed some utility and we pushed right on after it. Then from there, then you can continue the timeline one after the other. And so that's where you have to deal with all these complications, and it allows you to understand what went wrong with the round, and you didn't see a bunch of different things like, well, why did we do this? What was the reason? And for example, what was the reason that Capitao bolt? No one sits right next to the drone hole in any circumstance that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to bag on UC Sumter too much. Like I've been quite hard on them, and I think there's things, you know. This is a learning experience, right? This is collegiate esports. You're supposed to be learning and improving as a team. So it's important to understand the things that you're doing wrong. But we got to give a little bit of credit to Barton here, who's doing a lot of things right. And I think they're taking advantage of Sumter's lack of kind of coordination and some of the issues that Sumter has been having. For example, that was a really good play right there by Toaster to just, you know, use the drone hole. It's something that they showed us on other maps as well. And it's working to a certain extent. But look at this, Hellbeetle getting a kill, as is Decky. Suddenly it's a 5v3. And it looks like, for all the intents and purposes, the Barbarians are at the gates here. Urfi trying to level it back out with the MP5K. Does manage to get one. And the health bars for Sumter are getting awful low because Hellbeetle is down here as well. But this is not a particularly good position for the defenders either.
Yeah, jack of all trades. We've seen Joe Burrow come absolutely alive these previous two maps, but they're in sight. There's no way to be denied. Where's the cover, Sumter? You got to protect your planter. And regardless, Beatles last outside, and Yoshawat is stuck in an undesirable position. They'll push in right through the Aruni Shurya gate and Salted to collect on it. Great hold from Barton, but we cannot deny that Sumter made a really big dent on that round, and that was from the crossings they established and their outright ability to win their gunfights. And I really want to highlight that once they got into sight, they had the capability of a plant, and that's something that is very difficult to do in a round.
I mean, I said plant right there, okay? And I'm going to admit my own mistake. I shouldn't have told them to plant because I thought that the coverage was there. I thought Yoshiwa was in a position where they had that LMG. They could swing cover on that door the minute that they got anything approaching a sound cue. But Yoshiwa was off, kind of looking down towards elbow, did not even think about what was going on in the site right there as the plant went in. And again, the lack of coordination sort of sinking Sumter right there. And, you know, again, credit where credit is due. Sumter managed to get to the semifinals. They have to be a decent team. I don't know their stats. I'm new to this scene. Barton, though, they just look the superior inferior squad. Like, if we were gonna objectively kind of look at this and pick one team and say, okay, this is the team that probably deserves to be in the semifinals, right now it is undeniably Barton. They've been doing all the right things on this Villa map. Their defenses have looked relatively solid. The only thing I think they've really been struggling with here, Binks, is some of these early deaths. And I'm kind of curious. I mean, I wish we didn't really have too much of a view of it on the last round, and that's just kind of a product of there being so many people in play and what have you. But I'm kind of curious how UCSC Sumter continues to kind of find these individual Barton players in these early round scenarios and take them out. Is it a matter of maybe overconfidence on the side of Barton, or what is it necessarily that's leading to those opening kill deficits?
I'm not too sure. It could be a little bit of over aggression, but whenever Sumter's the one getting the opening kills, because they were able to outsmart Barton to some capacity, play at an angle that they either weren't expecting, or they just maneuver themselves in a way that they have the ability to work on site. Then on the rounds where Sumter gets the opening kill, we often see Barton. They come right back. They're like bouncing on a trampoline. As the first time you go down, it's a little bit smaller, but they bounce back so hard just off their ability to convey information. When you die, you have a little bit of information you can give to your team, and oftentimes Barton is sitting within 3 seconds of their teammates, and 3 seconds is how long information remains really relevant and good. After 3 seconds, they could have rotated, could have dropped a hatch, could have done so many different things that it's just not the same level. On the side of Barton, when they get the opening kill, it's often hard for Sumter to be in a position to go and refrag. Where let's say they were to snag a kill onto Joshua, they don't get over aggressive in a lot of scenarios where they get 1, oh, maybe I can get 2, maybe I can get 3. Even in situations where they easily could have, we see them peaking in a very safe way. And I think that's why Barton is able to maintain their kill lead or recover it to some degree.
You might very well be on the right track there, Binks, to be honest. And the refrag potential out of Barton does seem to be quite strong, all things considered, especially in late round scenarios. Speaking of late round scenarios, less than 1:20 left here. Sumter has managed to approach within striking distance of trophy statuette. They're just making their way in now, unleashing a barrage of projectiles here. But the members of Barton waiting. Guns aimed down line. It's very World War I-esque at the moment as they hold this trench line and wait for somebody to make the first person to rush in. Nobody seems quite willing to step into the firing line here, and that's probably why. 2 kills coming across the board almost immediately. Yoshua, and stop looking at me, both dead. There's Decky feeding into the meat grinder as well, and that's 3 members of USC Sumter dead in as many seconds. Hellbeetle, by the way, doesn't want to be left out of the experience, tries to jump in there as well and return to his natural environment. Fortunately, he will not be going there just yet.
This has been absolutely huge. Gilberto come up with a 3rd kill on the round, completely shutting things down. And you're right, this is quite reminiscent of trench warfare because they all dug in. But as they tried to push towards one side, it wasn't taken. But as you can see, the attacking side of Sumter did fall once the defensive advance. They pushed the line, they broke the line, and now we see a 5-0 score line. So many lines, Quebec. Oh my goodness. Coming out for Barton. But one more line that I do want to cross is the fact that we saw that alibi. I think it was Salty that was on the alibi. Oh my goodness, they bamboozled their opponents. They just sat there pretending to be the holograph, and you saw the little flick or the little shake once the alibi came to life. It was a very Night at the Museum-esque, but very scary stuff. And we talked about how Sumter has been having a little bit of trouble with this utility. And really abusing an alibi clone is just cruel to some degree because of how effective that can work when you don't want to shoot it and give away your position at such a pivotal time.
Very true indeed. And just to give you guys a little bit of an update here, looking at the board, from the other semifinal, WSU Tech versus St. Clair College. WSU Tech has just won Chalet 7-3. They're currently at a 4-3 advantage on the map they're playing right now. So it does look like WSU is potentially punching their ticket to the final. Certainly they've gone off to a strong start, but assuming this match does end a little bit early, I don't know what the protocol is. Presumably you guys will get a look at that semifinal as well at the tail end of all of this. But let's go back to the match we have on hand here. Barton firmly firmly in the driver's seat of this one. Banks, no hesitation on their side, looking to walk it home now. They just need 2 more rounds, and they will punch their way straight into the finals. Can USC Sumter pull something out of their hat? It's been a dismal attacking half here for Sumter. Can they find the wherewithal, the secret trick that they need here, Banks, to turn this into something a little bit better?
It's going to come off this early round, and one problem I've seen, and I know we keep mentioning the utility, but one final point that I want to make on it, this is great from the Flores, but you also want to make sure that once there's a drone going in, why is no one following this right now? Why is no one making sure that the utility or the info that they're obtaining? We saw Decky throw a drone in, and like, I'm going to be honest, I was so happy to see Ash use their drone, but for the most part, at least when I was playing competitive, you'd often see Ash put their drones on the flank watch. They would have your fraggers are the designated flank watch operator solely for the fact that they are able to push in a way that you don't need to worry about their drones. They're the ones getting droned in. It's that hierarchy of drones where they put it on the flank so they can cover their teammates. So that's completing a circle. Then you have the flex, which can drone them as they go in, support, which drone the flex, and then, of course, the flank watch, which supports the support. So just a cool little circle that you can really think of in your head of just the overarching Rainbow Six round. But the problem is when you don't approach with information, you're not going to be able to approach the building at all, as Beetle will be the first to fall on this final round and a half.
Yeah, Beetle is down, unfortunately. The Flores was a good call. I'm surprised we hadn't actually seen one earlier, considering that he was on the board, and he is so good for that util clear, and we haven't seen a propensity from the Barton side to run a mute, as far as I remember. Still, unfortunately, Hell Beetle the first to go here. Should mention that Kuro took a relatively good pasting there as well. Still, Sumter's got 4 bodies to play with. They're trying to challenge right now Jester, who has the easiest kill of his life right there. You'd think he was making it look effortless, because he is. The jump in there from Kuro is also punished brutal by Joe Burrow, who refuses to allow him to continue to exist on this mortal plane. Joe Burrow going for one more, whips out the sidearm, and unfortunately, bearing 9 does not deliver in that scenario. It's a difficult gun to use, Banks, but will not save the day.
Highly unfortunate for the players of Sumter. They really needed this round. Stop looking at me on a very fraction of the health that they would want in this scenario. And 20 seconds to go, it seems rather unlikely. At this point, it's just a matter of, will it be the time that will be Sumter's demise or the bullets on the other side of the barrel of Jester? And there's your answer. Jester will win it out on that castle with the UMP. Waiting, and there's the audio cue. Great use of ears, and that tells you once again, Barton's comms are as clear as can be. They know exactly what's going on. If you're able to hear that clearly at the end of the round, you know that Barton is dialed in, ready to go. Big props to them. They've earned their half, and that 6-0 scoreline is well-deserved. And that's not to say Sumter hasn't put out in a valiant effort. It just means that with every attempt Sumter has made, Barton has had a solidified answer.
Indeed. Well, Barton sitting at a 6-0 here. Sumter, unfortunately, still on that donut, has not managed to break the curse. This is their chance to do so. They are sitting now on the defensive side here. Binks, if you are ever going to win a stage on Villa, it will be on the defensive side. They have made a very controversial choice here, though. Yoshua is coming in on the Clash. Not where I would have gone with my back to the wall here, but man, if you're confident on the Clash, she can be a very annoying operator, very useful as an intel operator as well. Hides behind that shield, shocks people, screams curse words at them, and tells you where they are. It's a useful combination in an operator, Banks, but man, it is a gamble in a situation like this. It is a genuine gamble to rely on a Clash-based composition because it requires so much coordination, and I just haven't seen Sumter be able to deliver that tonight, unfortunately.
5 seconds to insertion.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. But as we go into what could be our final round as the action phase commenced, Barton taking a very similar approach, but what's different, you might ask? What makes Barton's approach that much different from Sumter? And I think it's their ability that they are coming from both the east and west, or northeast and northwest sides of the map, where they're already able to get towards the trophy ledge or even go in from mud room up astronomy. It's just the different routes that they are taking. And you might criticize my point of, well, Salty's droning for themselves. Why is this different? In the case of Salty, they're droning a different side of the map, one that is less likely to have attackers, and it's also being counter-droned. So they're droning for their other teammates that are coming in from bedroom, meaning that you have a lot more of an efficient clear. And that is why we see Barton already taking control of red, and the heavy roam, or not roam game, lack of roam game, soft extension is what is hurting. The Yin Candelas will possibly ring out. Salty also trying to use Joe Burrow's concussion to catch his clash off guard. However, it will not work and give them the effect that they're looking for. Joshua once again getting blinded. And with a minute 50, Sumter can already feel the heat.
Joshua, by the way, has acted as sort of, I was saying, oh no, because it looked like a legitimately bad situation. But now, at the tail end of it, Joshua has almost acted as a mobile ADS right there because I think they've absorbed every Candela that was in play. I know one is left in the hands of Salty Archer, but two or three of them were used right there onto Joshua, none of which had any effect. But now Jester set up the crossfire there, and Joshua's life might be measured in relatively short time frame. No, Joshua's still alive, still providing intel as here comes the final Candela. They haven't yet fully accounted for the clash. Jester starting to sort of section off Joshua, force him back over in towards the study. And this is a position where Joshua can't do very much. Decky now managing to secure an early kill here. Is that going to be enough to take Salty Archer off the board? One of the highest fraggers on the side of Barton. Plenty of other tools left in their arsenal. Joe Burrow in particular now waiting to swing on the doorway to Aviator. Does come through the front door. Joshua is there to block, but instead it's Stop Looking At Me, who gets brought down by Jester, and it's all starting to kick off here.
Decky to find a second kill in the round. This is an absolutely huge opening, but huge kills coming out on the side of Barton. 1, 2, and make it 3. All left up to Clash of Joshua trying to swing around, but it's going to be Joe Burrow with the knife onto the Clash to finish things off in flawless fashion. A flawless 7-0 for Barton University as they go absolutely crazy. And I gotta say, this is exactly what you want to show off going into the finals, that you are here to win. And a long time throughout the season, Barton has actually been favored to win both the season as well as this entire series. So I have to tip my hat to Barton and respect to Sumter where it is due. We saw improvements from round to round, and I want to highlight over on Coastline. It may not have worked to get them the round, but especially on Billards, from round to round, we saw things switch up. We saw them say, hey, this did not work. Let's fix this. And that's something I cannot give you enough props for. I know that I wasn't constantly giving you that support, saying, wow, you guys really had it. You guys, but the advancement that was made from round to round cannot be, you can't forget to talk about it.
No, you can. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a rough loss, right? Nobody's going to be particularly happy, but look at your season. You made it to semifinals. That is an accomplishment in and of itself. Barton, just the better team, either overall or on the day, one or the other. Sometimes that's just the way it is. So a good effort there regardless, but Barton really the standout players here tonight. They had the gun skill. They had the coordination. They looked good in every single aspect that they needed to in order to win this out. And that's where we sit right now. A very well-earned 2-0 victory. The flawless on Villa. You couldn't ask for anything more out of your potential grand finalist.
Well, regardless, that is going to be it for Corbeck, who will be hopping over to another stream, another partner of Esports U, NECC. So if you're an Overwatch fan,
that's correct.
After I come back and my interview is over, then you can hop on over to some really great Overwatch gameplay with Corbeck. It's been an absolute blast being able to reconnect with you, my friend, and cast with you after what feels like absolutely forever. But on that note, we're going to take a 3-minute break. I'll be back with an interview with Barton, so don't go anywhere. Game known as Joe Burrow, also known as Ashton. So how are you doing, my man?
Okay.
I'm doing really good, and we just witnessed you guys have an explosive win, and I believe you only dropped one round within the 2 games. So I got to give you once again major props for that.
Thank you.
So my first question of the day is going to be quite obvious as what was your mentality going into this matchup? Was there anything you did in particular to prep, or what was the general consensus on the team?
So basically we just tried to keep our same mentality through all of our games, try to keep a calm, collected mind. We did do a little bit of research on our opponents. We looked at what maps they like to ban and operators and whatnot, but other than that, it was just a normal matchup.
So when we actually saw the band phase, because this was a pretty interesting one, so I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. The coastline as well as club band. Is that where you guys saw it going, or was that just a happy accident?
To be honest, that was kind of surprising to me, but I mean, hey, it went in our favor at the end of the day, so that's
Yeah,
all
it
that
was weird
matters.
because on Tuesday they played Clubhouse and sorry, not Clubhouse and Coastline, Clubhouse and Oregon, so it seemed a little bit odd for them, but you guys really came in swinging, and it showed that you did your research, especially just on the way they like to play. Now, on your
Mhm.
defenses setups, we didn't see too many of them on Coastline, so this is going to be more on the Villa side. So when you guys are on that defensive end, what is your main goal? Because I know that different teams have different goals. Like, well, roamers will fall back at a minute, or we'll see that they say just go and you're gonna be playing your life on the roam. Or do you just send your teammates out and say do what you want? Wait, what is the general consensus? Sorry, general consensus on Barton.
I guess it really just depends on what map and what site we go. On Coastline, we're allowed to play a little bit more aggressive because it's just a more gunfight based map. Villa, we're more of like a bunker down type of team. Every once in a while, we'll send someone out to get drones and whatnot, but after that, we like to rotate utility to whatever site they're attacking.
Yeah, I noticed you on, I actually want to say the Malusi. You were oftentimes going for that late run flank or holding down the key position of Red Stairs. With them taking the Montang, how did that affect you guys as a team? Did it mean that you had to direct utility in a certain direction, or was it still a very comfortable vibe? Because at one point, I think that you're contesting the
Yeah.
Montang just sitting right there in sight.
Yeah, it definitely threw a wrench into our plans. It was definitely like a surprising pick from them. I can't really say too much. I mean, he kind of got lost towards the end of the round, and I kind of just shot him in the back, let his teammate die. So I don't know what else to say. I mean,
Yeah, you
gotta.
played it quite phenomenally. I'll give you major props there. Um, So next up, we actually do know who your opponent will be in the finals, WSU, since they did just win out their risk game respectively. Is there anything that you'll be doing necessarily to prep, or what's your mentality now that you know that WSU is going to be your opponent?
They are going to be a bit of a tougher team, so we'll definitely have to do a little bit of research before the game, look over the VOD and everything. But just treat it like a normal match, and I'm sure it'll be a good game.
Well, I'll definitely be tuning in for that one. I won't be commentating that. That will actually be on the NJCAA main Twitch channel, so you guys are gonna have to check that out. And it's gonna be casted by my good friend Sticula and Chief. They are a absolutely phenomenal casting duo, so it's gonna be a great show to watch. But on that note, is there anyone that you would like to shout out? Anyone like you'd like to thank? The say like, honestly, the mic is yours. Say whatever you need to.
I'd like to shout out my boy Damien Surf Medina on Beast Coast and Safwan Milano. That's pretty much it.
Well, that's a pretty good shout out. Let's clip that, put it on Twitter. You've been called out. It better go both ways. But regardless, on that note, thank you so much for your time, Ashton. And I really hope to talk to you again. Like I said, I'm most likely not going to be doing those finals. So best of luck to you as well as your team. I'll be rooting for you in the background. But regardless, that is all that we have here on NJCAA. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, 7 o'clock, for the finals, where you can see Barton taking on their opponents of WSU. So it is going to be a good one. And that's all we have. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and take it easy. Have a wonderful night.